Hey everybody, as most of you know, I've just come back from the Ukraine and I've had so many people ask me about my experience and what I saw and what I did. So the best way I thought to do it is just read some excerpts from my journal. There are way too many to share on this video. So without further ado, here you go. Starting with March 6th. 9 days ago, Russia attacked Ukraine and 1 million people have fled the country. This is being called the worst humanitarian crisis since World War II. I sit here at the Polish border in a cab over 18-wheeler watching a constant stream of women and children trying to make it across the border. It's heartbreaking. We arrived at the border at 9 p.m. last night, and the crossing, it's pure madness. Throngs of women and children of all ages are standing in the freezing rain at the border. The temperatures are below freezing. It's 1 a.m. At one point, that line that they're standing in was 3 miles long. The crossing, it never ceased. It was a river of humanity flowing through an island of hopelessness. This is the most chaotic border crossing I think I've ever experienced. Instead of single files like you would think going into Mexico, it's cars and buses and trucks. They crisscross from one lane to the other, leapfrogging in both directions. My host, a Polish truck driver in his late 50s named Marios, I have been riding shotgun in his truck full of Samaritan's Purse supplies. We're camped at the border all night for security reasons. We're going into Lviv to set up an emergency field hospital. So far, the capital city of Kyiv is still in Ukrainian hands, but the Russians are on the move. If it falls, it's expected that Lviv will become the government headquarters. Marios and I, we've been playing a constant game of charades. He does not speak Spanish or English, nor even gibberish. And well, my Polish, it lacks quite a bit, since I don't speak any. And the best that I can tell through our game of charades is that he has 2 wives, 4 kids, and he lives in a castle. He has made me espresso and fed me bread and sausage that he has cooked on the tailpipe of his exhaust on the truck. March 9th, day 7. We're in the Lviv Mall parking garage. I have not seen daylight for 3 days. There is no sense of time when you can't see the sun. We almost have the Tier 3 hospital set up. My new friend Elijah, he's a translator from Kyiv, well, right outside of Kyiv, showed me many pictures from his town, which was burned to the ground. He's a worship leader, and his family, they had to flee to Germany. He couldn't leave because he's within fighting range. Fighting age. With his town burned to the ground, his house in ruins, and his family living in another country, he looks me square in the eye and he says, "Y'all have brought us such encouragement. God is so good to us." That just broke my heart. How many more tears can I have? My faith, man, it seems so shallow compared to what this man has experienced. So shallow in comparison to his. March 17th, day 15. We were finally told by the big boss that we could relax a little. We have been busting butt from daylight to night 30 every day. I would list what all we have done, but that list is too long and I'm way too tired. We got to fly in on the DC-8 Samaritan's Purse cargo jet. I managed to sneak into one of the hospital emergency rooms and watch an amputation by one of the most experienced orthopedic surgeons that volunteers for Samaritan's Purse. Seemed out of place. A build maintenance guy standing there in scrubs, watching someone's leg being cut and sewn up. We get daily briefings from our security officer. Word around here is that the Ukrainians took back an airport. So I guess the teeter-totter of war has commenced. I have felt slightly depressed and lonely this last few days. I miss Carol. I was working at the bus station clinic, and off the bus came a 50, 60-year-old woman, neatly dressed, carrying a bag, carrying a dog, a bit disheveled, confusion on her face, despondency in her step. And I imagined, what if that was my wife or my mother, displaced from her country, no place to go? And it broke my heart for what these people are experiencing. I got busy working in the clinic again, and I totally lost what happened to her. But in that same spot came another gentleman dressed in fatigues with a German accent. Are you my contact? No, I'm just here working in the clinic. I'm supposed to meet my contact here. Well, about 30 minutes later, 25 or so more men showed up, waiting on that contact. They were to board the bus and head to the front lines. We met another group of Czechoslovakians who were coming in. They were dressed in fatigues. They were there to help fight. The next day, then the next day, and the next day, all groups and ages of men would show up at the bus station, dressed in business suits or fatigues. Some looked like they were army vets. Some looked like they just came out of the retail store. They were plumbers, musicians, computer programmers. From all walks of life, they showed up at the bus station, heading to the front lines. This was their new life. This was their new way. And it's heartbreaking. The work here is taxing and long hours. No amounting of sighing seems to alleviate my condition, so I trudge on, looking impatiently for the other side of my depressed feelings. Today we took down 5 tents. We are breaking up the Tier 3 hospital into two Tier 2s and moving further inland in hopes of seeing more action. After all, we came to serve the people of Ukraine. But if it's Russian soldiers we see, then we will see them as well, because our ultimate purpose is to share the gospel. This war, it seems like no one has given the Ukrainians much hope. We all believe the Russians would just come in and bulldoze everything, and the war would be over soon. But they have held their ground, and Kyiv still stands 20 days later. It's a bit disheartening to have put up all this work, to put up all these tents, only to have to tear them down and move. But that's what we do. We're becoming a mobile hospital. A 9-year-old boy gave his life to Christ yesterday, and that makes it all worth it. I dare not complain. I dare not complain. God, He's always good. Tuesday, March 29th. 2 hours it took us to get through the Ukraine-Polish border on board a 90-seat tour bus that is heading us back to Krakow, Poland. This stint of Ukrainian humanitarian help through SP is melting away. The roads are virtually desolate. The border crossing is absolute contrast 1 month previous. Gone are the long lines of refugees trudging through the freezing temps. No more heartbreaking scenes of mothers clutching their small children, bundled in the ski outfits, clothing we would recreate in, clothing they survived in along the arduous journey of a country at war. Lviv, it's also a city of contrast, with her sister cities under siege. Out in the east, Old Lviv is in the west part of the country. It bustles with thousands of all walks of life, street musicians and dancers reveling in the sunshine as winter begins its hibernation. Street-side cafes are filled with those looking to hide from the horrors 350 miles away. My own personal contrast lies in wait halfway around the world. One without daily air raids that interrupt the mundane of life. The closest missile strike hit us about 3 miles away. You could feel the ground rumbling and smell the smoke. Just one apartment complex away from the bus station. The target, a tank factory used for refurbishing, not manufacturing. Lviv suffers now from daily air raids where the people shelter until all is clear, sometimes for hours, oftentimes much less. If you're checking out in the store, all operations cease immediately. The money drawers are closed and everyone heads to the parking garage for the bomb shelter. This deployment became known as the Dungeon Dart because we lived mostly underground. Beneath the shopping mall, after all, this is Ukraine. It's not some third world country. It is a vibrant Eastern European breadbasket of the area. Teslas, BMWs, Land Rovers, they cruise the streets of Lviv. It is the young and tech city of the country. Lots of new construction everywhere you look. I counted some 17 construction cranes towering over various projects. They're all in flux now. The last bit of news we heard was that the Russians are having all sorts of trouble. Troops killing their own generals was just one of them. We have daily security briefings. Our security officer, an ex-policeman from Canada. After a month, Kyiv still stands in the people's hands, and the Russians were moving elsewhere. We're told this could be moving into trench warfare, just digging in and shelling from afar. Just the casual inscription upon these pages about the ongoing suffering, it's almost tragic in itself. It cannot be fully understood without the accompaniment of sound, sight, and smell. Without these senses, it just remains just a story and not an experience. A full range of emotions explode when casted upon the turbulent waters of any disaster. The listening ear, it's not the same as weeping hands. I've been covered in prayer on this journey. More people told me that they had prayed for me when I returned. I didn't even know they knew I was gone. I appreciate that. The Lord's covering is what I seek the most. His favor is my desire. In His service, I give my hands and my breath. I'm just a traveler, one who goes and lends a hand from time to time. In faraway places, I can return to my home. It's always there. But those caught in the crosshairs have limited rest and no place of solace. Maybe it is a hurricane. At least it's not war. Maybe it is famine, earthquake, or tornadoes. These can't be helped. But the hubris of man, now that's a disaster of another sort. I am honored to have served Samaritan's Purse in this way. And I'm deeply blessed to know that so many people were praying for me in my absence. You can see other videos about Samaritan's Purse on YouTube. Just go to Samaritan's Purse, Ukraine, and you might spot me in a few of them. Standard